What is the Butler Institute of American Art? Well, besides being so famous that it was a question on Jeopardy, it is the first museum in the United States donated completely to American art, and for that reason alone, it's worth a visit. I'm Tricia Perry for Vision of the Valley. Today we're at the Butler Institute of American Art in Youngstown and talking to Director Lou Zona, who's been here for quite a while now.
A couple of years, Trish.
But not as long as the 95 years that the Butler is right now, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, I've been here almost 35 years, so it's been a while. I've seen some changes and many good things, hopefully. And the community has rallied around the Butler. I think they love the museum very much.
We're going to talk for a minute here about the permanent collection because that's sort of why this whole thing started, right?
That's right. The founder of the museum was a guy named Joseph Green Butler Jr., who was one of the first serious collectors of American paintings. His contemporaries were going to Europe and investing in Monets and Renoirs. He was buying the work of William Merritt Chase and Edward Hopper and artists like that. So that's why today we have such a great collection, because he was very early in acquiring it. And over the years we've added to it, got a lot of wonderful gifts, made a few purchases, and for example, a Norman Rockwell that I can't wait to show you.
Oh yes, we'll get to those, but we also have to know that while many things are permanent and never ever leave here, you also like to keep it fresh, and so you get a couple of new things, and lately you've had a few new things that are kind of unusual. Yeah,
the most unusual is a Vincent van Gogh painting that is owned by a wonderful family in nearby Warren, Ohio. And they put it on loan to the Butler Institute, and we are overjoyed because it is such a magical name, Vincent van Gogh.
Right. We're going to look at that in a minute, but for those who follow the art world, might say, wait, this is an American art museum. He was not an American artist. What the heck?
Yeah. Obviously, someone offers a Vincent van Gogh, that you can't turn that down. But here's the thing: Van Gogh was a major influence on American art. So many great artists that we associate with America have been inspired by Vincent van Gogh and his philosophy of painting.
Let's walk over and find that right now.
This is where we house our American Impressionist collection. And these are artists who went to Europe and worked alongside Monet and Renoir, and then came back with a philosophy of how to capture the effects of light on objects, which is what Impressionism is really all about.
And some of the names here are?
John Singer Sargent, Robert Vano. Probably the most famous American Impressionist painting in the country is right there. Robert Vano's In Flanders Fields.
Yes.
1892 it was painted.
That's beautiful.
Americans went to Europe between, say, 1890 and 1920 and worked alongside the French Impressionists.
So when we come through here, we now see a special display that was not here before, a new wall, sort of, that has been built for this.
Right. It's a small painting, but very indicative of his Vincent van Gogh's very early work. He's what we call an expressionist. An expressionist approaches the canvas with the intention of putting his heart into it, putting his emotions into it, and he's hoping that the work in return will convey that emotion to the viewer. So that we also say that it's painterly painting because the markings of the brush are so evident. In the case of Van Gogh, he even used his fingers, or he used the palette knife to put the paint on in a heavy manner. This is, again, a very early work from the 1880s, but again, indicative of Expressionist art.
So if you look at this, can you tell me what about this would have influenced American Impressionists?
What it influenced those artists whose work is emotionally based. And the key to Expressionism is the heavy application of paint and the rather unfinished look to it. There's a lot of spontaneity that goes into Expressionistic painting. It's not a kind of a studied thing. It's, again, a very, very expressive thing. How can I convey my feelings about this subject to you? And I can do that by applying the paint in this manner and in a thick manner and creating this, what we call, again, painterly painting.
So this one called In the Dunes, he's obviously painting a landscape that he liked very much because that looks like a happy picture to me.
It is. In fact, in the display we have a letter that he wrote to his brother Theo about this particular spot, a small country near the countryside near Paris, and
yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah, he was an extraordinary talent who didn't realize it. I mean,
right, because he wasn't famous till after he died.
He was not famous. In fact, he sold only one painting in his lifetime, and today Vincent van Gogh appears in the marketplace. The world goes wild,
right, because
his work is so unique.
So to have this here is a wonderful thing, and you could not say no to it.
No, and again, he was such an influence on American Expressionistic art in the 20th century, especially. Even the work of Jackson Pollock, a name that most people recognize. But his work was very abstract, but it was very emotional as well. He poured his heart out into those canvases, and that's exactly what Vincent van Gogh was doing many years before.
Okay, so we can come to this and see this for pretty much till the end of the year at least, right?
Yeah, this painting will be here indefinitely. It's a long-term loan from a very nice family.
That's great. So as we look at the other paintings in this gallery as well, a lot of these are familiar to us because we've seen them for years and years.
Right. The paintings are hung in historical sequence. The earliest works are in the gallery when you first come into the Butler Institute, and as you walk to the left, you're walking into the 18th and 19th centuries.
Right.
So these are artists who were, again, very much inspired by European models. And many of these artists in this room, especially in the Impressionist gallery, went to Europe and came back with Impressionistic ideas.
And then there is a whole new part of, still say new even though it's been many years now, the new part of the Butler that focuses more on modern art or even digital type of thing.
That's right. We call it our new media wing, which is, or we call it the Beecher Center for the family that made the largest donation to making that possible for us.
Well, let's look at that.
Yeah, but what we try to do is to show, most artists today are not standing in front of easels, they're sitting in front of computers, and we wanted to catch them.
So this is a ramp to the new media wing.
This is the Beecher Center that we're entering, and you'll see everything from holography to video art to digital photography.
I have to say the kids like this wing because they can touch some of it.
That's right.
Not like the other part where you can't touch anything.
That's right.
So,
and at the end of this hallway, which is we call our Novak Gallery, is a work by Audrey Flack.
So yes, this is the perfect spot for Queen Catherine, right?
Queen Catherine of Portugal. She's a 17th century queen that Queens, New York is named
I think
for.
that's amazing. I never knew that. Never knew which queen.
Right, and this is Audrey Flack is the artist who did it, and this is actually a study for an enormous piece that was to be installed in Queens, New York, that was supposed to be many stories high, to rival even the Statue of Liberty. But there were some political things happened, and the project was stopped. And Audrey Flack called me and asked whether if we would like to have the study for the potential Queen's skull. I think it's interesting that the face there's no photographs, there's no paintings of Queen Catherine that she could go by. So she just made a multiracial female face.
Right.
And I think it's very, very effective.
And she ended up marrying Charles II of England and became the Queen of England.
The Queen of England.
Even though she was from Portugal, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So she's beautiful, and I don't know what her vision was, but the sphere is to represent.
I assume the Earth. I think that's up. Artists will never tell you
What they really want.
What they really want. They want you to be engaged. But there's something for people to notice when they come visit the Queen. Look at her belt and a couple of things that are hanging from her belt.
It looks like an airplane over here. Is that what that is? And then
they look like
airplanes.
Yeah, jet planes.
Interesting.
I have not spoken to the artist about this. I don't know what she's going to tell me when I ask her, but you can bet that it'll be open-ended.
Also, I don't know if you can tell right now, but the sphere changes colors.
It does.
So that's kind of lovely to watch, especially if it's darker in here.
And the idea that's new media, the electronics in that sphere, and I guess it helps make this placement acceptable.
But also acceptable because of the window, the corner, the light, and she blends in with all of this, all of the white walls and the decor.
Perfect.
Yeah, she's really perfect. I happened upon this one day when I was just in here for no reason but to enjoy the place, and she was getting installed, so I was thrilled to see it.
What a task. It took a lot of really strong guys to move this through the building. It comes in two pieces, she comes in two pieces, and we needed height because the top part had to be lifted and set down on a couple of large spikes that are holding it all together. So this is the perfect spot, and frankly the only spot that could accommodate it.
You really don't have a better place you can put it. And as we're listening, I want to walk over to this. This is something kids love to watch for minutes on end, if not hours. This noise that we're hearing is this wonderful thing.
It's a work by an artist named George Rhodes, and George creates these kind of strange machines these ball machines. In fact, you'll see them in various places in the country. This is one of his early works.
Right.
And yes, the kids are hypnotized by it.
Right. This is really a great place to come, especially on a hot summer day when you want to kind of get out of the heat and enjoy art and all the fascinating things you can see in here. And I've been here with a lot of little nieces that have and my own child who's just loved it. And this is one of the things that fascinates them forever.
We can also take a peek at the holograms.
So yeah, when you're passing this, almost everybody really has to stop and check out all the various reflections and what you're doing in there.
This is an artist named James Seawright, who was one of the very first technologically based artists in the country, and this is an early work, and we love it. The kids love it.
The kids love it. You have the X where you're supposed to stand so that you can catch all the different reflections. We have so many pictures of this, the little faces and parts of, you know, elbows and, and everything inside.
And in this gallery are the holograms of an MIT artist named Anna Maria Nicholson.
Oh, wow.
And also something pretty amazing.
This is one of my favorite things, and when it was a whole exhibit, it was one of my favorite things. I cannot believe someone can figure out how to construct that so that that shadow is on the wall when that light is at the right part.
People do not believe this. This is an artist named Larry Kagan, lives in New York City. But what you're looking at is an abstract sculpture that casts a shadow, which is almost photographically real. So
Right.
I'm just blocking the light.
Right.
So I asked the artist how he does this. He said trial and error.
Right.
I would think there's a lot of error in
Right, like
in
so
this
he
part.
shines the light on the piece of metal and then keeps moving it till it makes
Till it
his head,
gets
his
it.
shoulder, his feet. I mean, but it's such detail. Like when you look at like the shoes and the pants and his tie and his face. I mean, that's a lot of detail to get out of this.
It's remarkable.
It's amazing that he even would have thought to do it. You know, that's what artists' brains amaze me because they think of these things.
And now some holograms.
Okay. So this is a room that kind of mystifies everyone because holograms are so amazing.
Yeah, they're three-dimensional photographs. I understand the theory behind holography has been around a long time, but it wasn't until laser light was invented that they could become a reality. Now don't ask me how they're done, but it has something to do with the speed of laser light versus traditional light.
So is there a reason that the light is this color in here?
We looked at several different bulbs. The artist recommended this amber light.
So from here I can't see anything, but as we come upon them, they appear and it's so kind of scares you.
Yeah, they're again three-dimensional photographs.
Oh, that is her. No, that's Betty Comden. Okay, and then I don't know who that is, but we know this face, and you've met him, right? He's
That's
been here.
Tony Bennett. Yeah, we've had a couple of exhibits of Tony Bennett's paintings here at the Butler, and what a nice man. What a talented
That
man.
is wild. You just want to reach out and touch him.
That microphone is coming right out of the wall.
I know. Look at that. I could grab it. I could just put my hand right there.
It is. People love the holograms, and so we try always to have some holography hanging in the museum.
Right. And it's perfect for this gallery and for this media center over here
sure.
because this is so different than anything else in the rest of the Butler.
This show of Anna Maria Nicholson's holographic photographs are some many famous people, like Keith Haring, an artist who died of AIDS a number of years ago, but he was a very influential artist on the American scene. Just really wonderful things.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of another new thing, or relatively new thing here, is that there's now a bridge from your building to the church building, which is now part of the Butler.
Right, we've had the bridge for a number of months now. It's still a toy to us, where we've connected the former First Christian Church, which is now part of the Butler, and we've converted the upstairs rooms into gallery spaces where we show our Americana Collection.
How wonderful.
These are glass bells and decoys and weather vanes and an assortment of other objects.
You get a nice view as you pass over the bridge.
Yeah, we love the bridge, and it's been a wonderful attraction in itself.
Oh, so this is this a Poland, Ohio scene right here?
Yeah, this is early. This is around 1800. cows drinking Mahoning River water.
It's a Powers home. Powers is still a name here.
Yep.
So how wonderful.
Yep. So this wing has not only the objects, but also very early primitive, oftentimes primitive paintings.
Right. And here are some objects here.
Our glass bell collection, which has been in the Butler collection for a number of years, and now we have a permanent home for it.
Beautiful.
And we were given a collection of 19th century costume.
They're tiny little costumes, though. So, why did he make these?
Well, Pete Bellard he's a retired costume designer who worked in the theater in various parts of the country, got to know some of the great men and women of the theater, and has devoted his retirement years into making these small versions of famous clothing statements. Here's a whole century worth of,
oh my goodness,
of clothing designs, costume designs.
Beautiful. I can't believe he went to all this effort for tiny little costumes that no one can wear but dolls.
That's right.
Did he made the dolls too, or did you have to
he did the whole thing. He's again a remarkable man from West Virginia. Now in his 80s, he's very gifted.
Look at the detail. Oh, look at that. That's amazing.
Yeah, beautifully done. And these three galleries show different facets of the Butler collection, including the marine collection and some of our carousel horses.
So of course this makes sense, carousel horses and pigs.
Yeah, these were from a private collection that were left to the Butler, and they represent some of the very early studios, the people that made these things, and they're all hand carved.
None of them were
horses.
We know Idora carousels,
No.
because that whole thing is in New York City.
That's right.
Brooklyn.
It's in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But these are, very fine examples of carousel art.
Beautiful. Lovely.
And we have also from the very same donor a duck decoy collection that is one of the finest in the country.
So when you look at these, at first you don't realize how important they are, but these are really amazing.
Right. I mean, these were actual functioning decoys that hunters used back in the 19th century. And people who know this art form can recognize the style of different artisans around the country who created these things. This is a very rare collection, and you're only seeing a part of it. It's really wonderful. And something else about we call this area Butler North, is that we've just converted a balcony space into a gallery space. And I think you're going to enjoy what you see there.
Oh my goodness, this is a shock, because this is amazing. It was the balcony, and now it's just this beautiful gallery space that's part of it.
This is all part of it. This is the former balcony, and now we will be exhibiting three-dimensional artworks. The first exhibit will be opening in very soon. It's of carved birds by an artist named Cliff McGinnis, originally from Hubbard. And these are just a wonderful collection from the Williamson collection.
But then this is all glass because you don't want to block that view,
That's
right?
exactly right. That stained glass window is one of the most beautiful windows you'll ever see. It's cobalt blue. The artists who worked on it were competitors with Tiffany's in New York. And we wanted the glass wall so that people can take advantage of that beautiful, beautiful window.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Wow. And you can move the glass if you need to shoot video through it or
That's
photographs.
exactly right. And if there's a service there and we need some balcony space, we can set chairs here and open the glass.
So you still have weddings here? Does that still happen?
We do rent it out for weddings and events. We've had some performances in here. And we're planning a number of other events.
With the Butler, I guess you have to keep the vision and the options open, because this is an older church building, very old, and here you found a way to incorporate it into your American art mission.
Yeah, it's the building is 1934, and it's in wonderful condition for it. It's such an old building. It's such a beautiful building. We're so glad that the congregation chose to make it available to the Butler Institute, and some wonderful people in the community raised the money so that we could have this.
So now we are in another one of the older galleries.
We're on the north side of the Butler, the main building. This is the historic collection of the 20th century, beginning with the so-called Ashcan group, who worked at the early part of the 20th century, right up to Norman Rockwell, who made his name in the mid-20th century. This is a unique work by Norman Rockwell called Abraham Lincoln, the Rail Splitter.
Yes, and this has been here not that long.
Not that long. It was in Ross Perot's private collection.
Wow.
And for some reason, he put it up for auction. And since there was no Norman Rockwell in the Butler collection, and this is so perfect for the Butler, we went after it. And we're very fortunate to have gotten it at a time when the Rockwell market was not that big.
Yeah.
And so today, this would not be affordable.
Right.
I mean, his work is just so collected internationally.
And really, being an American Art Museum, you really had to have one.
We really did. And what's more American than our greatest president, Abraham Lincoln?
It's really wonderful. And you don't often see him as a young man.
No, you don't. And
really ever in pictures, or I'm sorry, I should say, you hardly ever see him in any kind of image as a young man.
That's right. I guess Norman Rockwell went to every site that we associate with Lincoln. In Kentucky, where he was born, in Illinois, where he entered politics and the law, and of course Washington, D.C., where he was president. And he really absorbed who this man Lincoln was before he embarked on making this painting.
That's lovely. So this then leads into this front gallery,
which is our more contemporary works of the 20th century and 21st century. And speaking of the 21st century, the work of Peter Meyer. He's a Brooklyn-born artist who designed Cadillacs for a living.
Oh my.
Before he went out on his own as a painter.
And so he created...
Yeah, so when he left General Motors, having designed Cadillacs for them for a number of years, he went out on his own and continued to use automobile paints to create his works. This is done on an aluminum panel. It weighs about 1,000 pounds. It took 5 or 6 very strong guys to get it up onto the wall. But you're looking at an airbrushed work. This is not a photograph. It was painted by hand with the paint being sprayed on to the metal.
Yeah, it even looks, I mean, it's shiny like a Cadillac. It's shiny like the car paint he probably dealt with, right?
And the funny thing was, before he left, he got up on a ladder and he pulled some Simonize out of his back pocket and he Simonized the paint. The last thing you ever do would be to put Simonize on a canvas, but here he is working on metal and brought it all to life.
That's amazing. And then it's nice that you have these, you have a series of pictures of putting it up, and then over here, this is the series of pictures of him actually painting it.
Yeah, he would mask off areas.
Right.
And just like an automobile paint, the paint is sprayed onto the canvas, onto the metal.
It's really sort of like a testament to when artists really feel the need to do something, that it took him away from that job, and he seemed probably compelled to do something like this.
Today, I think Peter Meyer is the most talented I think he's the best realist painter in our country. Pete's in his late 60s. He was a child prodigy. He worked for General Motors as a very young fellow, designing cars. And today he does various kinds of paintings of animals, of people, a couple of really clever self-portraits. But this, I think, is his masterpiece, and we wanted it for the Butler Collection, and we got it.
That's amazing. So you have to have, I mean, you've said you've been here 35 years. You have to always have a vision that keeps changing to know what to do next. Where do you go from here? What's your next plan?
Well, we're going to finalize the work in Butler North and get those galleries up and running, especially the new balcony gallery. I think that's going to be very, very exciting. And we're also looking at some possible adjustments to our facility in Trumbull County. As you may know, Tricia, we have a museum, a little satellite museum in Holland, Ohio, where we show some pretty exciting things. We just closed a show of Paul Jenkins' abstractions, which were his last paintings. And right now we're showing the work of a group of Pittsburgh artists called the Associated Artists of Pittsburgh, and it's going to be really nice.
So it's always important to keep the vision moving, right?
Very, very important that we don't stop.
And don't forget, there is a second Butler location in Howland in Trumbull County. Both sites are free for visitors. You can find out more about them at butlerart.com. For Vision of the Valley, I'm Tricia Perry.